Math 1332, Chapter 11, Statistics, Section 2, Picturing Data, Video 1, Drawing a Bar Graph for Categorical Data. As the title implies, this section is all about drawing pictures. Some are easier than others, but none are too terribly difficult. We'll start with drawing a bar graph for categorical data. Suppose you're given values for a categorical variable and their frequencies, like in a frequency distribution. To draw a vertical bar graph, first, draw vertical and horizontal axes, which is the plural of axis, meaning at a point in the lower left corner. Along the horizontal axis, write the different values of the categorical variable. These are written just below the horizontal axis. Along the vertical axis, write a numerical scale starting at 0 and ending high enough to be greater than the greatest frequency in your data set. We're going to be raising bars a certain height. We need to make sure that there's enough room to raise the tallest bar. Note, depending on how spread out your frequencies are, you may choose to label your vertical axis, that should say vertical axis. All right, let's try that again. And I did find another place where I wrote the incorrect word. Step 3, along the vertical axis, write a numerical scale starting at 0. 0 should be even with the horizontal axis, and ending high enough to be greater than the greatest frequency in your data set. Note, depending on how spread out your frequencies are, you may choose to label your vertical axis in increments greater than 1. For example, you might label by tens, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Just make sure the increment remains the same all along the vertical axis. So don't start going by tens and then suddenly by 50s. Don't go 0, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 150. No, all the increments should be the same. Stop. Being a little persnickety here. Number 4, above each value on the horizontal axis, draw a vertical bar whose height is correct according to the scale on the vertical axis. Leave slight spaces between adjacent bars. That's pretty much all there is to it. One quick note, for a horizontal bar graph, just switch the words vertical and horizontal in each step. Bars will be drawn horizontally starting from the vertical axis. Let's take a look at an example because this really isn't that difficult to do. And for the students who are taking the class during which I'm recording these, I'm going to go into the homework and show you how you would draw it there. Draw a bar graph for the number of transplants of various types performed in the United States in a certain year. We have 5 types of transplants: kidney, liver, pancreas, heart, and lung, and the number of such transplants that took place during a given year. All right, if we're going to draw a bar graph, the first thing we need to do is draw a vertical and horizontal axis, and they should intersect in the lower left corner. Then along the horizontal axis, we need to write the values of the categorical variable. The variable here is type of transplant, and it has 5 values according to this distribution table. Those 5 values are, from left to right, or from top to bottom, kidney, liver, pancreas, heart, and lung. Also, and I forgot to mention this in the steps, you should also label your axis not just in terms of the values of the categorical variable, but the categorical variable that's being measured, or rather in this case being observed. So for this one, we would say types of transplants. When it's all said and done, you want your picture to be uninterpretable. In other words, you want people to be able to look at it and know exactly what information it conveys. All right, our next move is to label the vertical axis with a scale starting at 0, going high enough to pick up the highest frequency. Well, the highest frequency here is 13,000. So we don't want to count by ones or tens or even hundreds. I would recommend counting by thousands. Now, give me a second to see if I can type this instead of draw it. Okay, I had to change some font sizes, move some things around, and stretch out a couple of axes. But if you'll notice, I've got the vertical axis labeled in a scale of 1,000 because I had to go all the way from 0 up to 13,000. All right, so now that we've got all the axes labeled, and notice that the vertical axis is not only labeled in terms of a numerical scale, but a description of what the numbers are counting, in this case, number of transplants. Now, if we knew the certain year, we could put that in there. In fact, we could just copy what's in the instructions and say transplants of various types performed in the United States in a certain year. It's all about communicating exactly what the bar graph is going to convey. In fact, why don't we go ahead and do that? We'll copy this, go inside of this text box, paste it here, maybe reformat it a little bit so that it's not so crowded. Normally I would put it in the center, but the distribution table is up there. All right, so now everything is crystal clear, and now all we have to do is literally raise the bar above each value on the horizontal axis. Let's make the first bar, what color is the kidney? We'll say brown. So we'll draw a bar here, and the kidney transplants was 13,000. So we need to raise that up to about 13,000. Now, a lot of these you do just kind of estimate. What color is a liver? Let's say a liver is, I don't know, green. Just making up colors here. And you don't have to use more than one color. You can just use whatever. 5,207. That's a little bit above 5,000. One thing that can help, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but one thing that can help is to draw horizontal lines, almost like you're drawing a graph. In fact, I think I'm going to pause this and draw in some horizontal lines. And there we go. The horizontal lines aren't really necessary, but if you're drawing a bar graph, and I just realized some of my numbers got chopped off, so let's move those over a little bit. But if you're drawing a bar graph, then anything you can put on it to make it more readable is a good idea. So let's draw this kidney bar again. The kidney bar we're going to draw above the word kidney, and it has to have the correct frequency, so we have to draw that up to 13,000, which is about there. And I'm not going to bother changing colors. The liver bar needs to be up to about 5,200. So there it is, about 5,000. So about a quarter of the way up would be 5,207. Pancreas is only up 533. So that's about halfway up to 1,000. Heart is up to 1,517. So that's about halfway between 1,000 and 2,000. And lungs are just a little bit over 1,000. So maybe something like that. And that's all a bar graph is. I mean, ideally, it's not really that hard to figure out. It's just the mechanics of drawing one and making sure that your bar graph is labeled appropriately so that when anybody looks at it, they'll know exactly what information is being conveyed. Oh, you're telling me the number of types of transplants, and it looks like there were a lot of kidney transplants. Now, I do want to share what it looks like in the online homework, because although it's very easy to figure out, I just feel like it's a good idea for me to demonstrate. Let me find it. Here it is. All right, you should be seeing this screen now, and I did borrow this exactly from the homework in the class that I'm currently teaching. Those are the same frequencies. In the homework to draw a bar graph, the dirty work has already been done for you. Notice they scaled these by 2000s, and all you have to do is raise the bars. And there's two ways to raise the bars. Number one is to go into this box and type what the frequency is, 13,000, and I believe you can just hit enter. You can, and it will automatically put the bar where it needs to be. Another option is you can actually, let's put it back down to 0 for a second. You can actually, well, I thought you could. Oh, there it is. Did you see the little, see it's giving me the finger there. Lungs is 1107. So you can click and raise the bar, but the problem with that is stopping exactly where it needs to be. 1107, that's gonna be very hard to stop on exactly. And I can't, what do you know? I got lucky. But you can either click and drag. Heart was 1517. Let's see, click and drag. Heart is 1517. So is it going to stop there? It did. How nice of it to stop exactly where it needed to. Or you can just type. Pancreas was 533. Enter. Kidney was 13,000. And liver was 5,207. Check the answer. Woohoo. We drew a picture. Somewhere it should say check. There it is. All right. So going back to the whiteboard just for a second, drawing a bar graph is really not that difficult. It's just a matter of raising bars correct height. Just remember to label the axes and leave some spaces between the bars.